Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Neptune the Chameleon.
And I'm Lyssa Lizards.
And we're your reptile girlies.
This one's for the wild type of girls.
All right, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow us on social media at the Wild Type Podcast. Also, you can follow each of us individually
Lyssa
on social
Lizards,
media.
Neptune the Chameleon. All the places.
Yeah, we post all the things. And don't forget, we're doing our giveaways.
Tons of giveaways. Once again, we will take any and all reviews on everything. And we are currently offering a $25 gift card to the first 20 reviews. So if you haven't done that, do that. Send us a screenshot. Oh, yes. Sorry. My bad.
Yes.
Forgot to mention.
Yes. We're going to get all your buggies. And they sell supplies too. So
lots of stuff.
Even if you're all stocked up on bugs, you can get some new lights and stuff.
So we're still doing that one as long as we haven't hit 20 reviews yet. So send us a screenshot either to Instagram DM or our email, which you can find in the show notes. We are also offering a $50 gift card to Fram's Cams, which is fantastic and very exciting.
Yes.
And then we're also giving away a Dubia.com enclosure, Dragon Strand ledges,
all kinds of goodies.
All kinds of stuff. So check out our socials.
Yes. Be sure to take advantage. Be one of the early birds. So exciting for this episode. So I'm so excited. In December, right? Yes. So 'tis the holiday season. 'Tis the season for gift giving.
Yes.
And with that comes a big question. Should you gift a pet reptile? Dun, dun, dun.
I have so many thoughts. This
isn't a black and white answer. This is going to be a conversation, right? Because it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
When does it go well? When does it not go well? Yes. And we'll get into all the different scenarios.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of the times there is a little bit of just a lot of people in the reptile community will straight up just say, no, you should never gift a reptile.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of blanket statements,
there's more nuance to it.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. So what we're going to try and do is kind of share our experiences, things we've heard from other people. You've been given a gift as a reptile.
I still haven't, 15 years later.
And so we can dive into that so we can speak to it. So do we want to start with what's going well or when it goes not well?
Ooh.
You want the good or the bad?
Maybe let's do the bad first.
Okay.
I don't know.
Dive in. When does it not go well? Wait, I wrote down notes. I don't want to forget. Oh, first thing I wrote down, when it's a surprise.
God, that's the worst. That's the one time that I will say absolutely never. Absolutely never should you ever gift any living being to another living being as a surprise.
This is not unique to reptiles. It's just like pets in general. But yeah, if the person doesn't know that it's happening, then how can you ensure that they've done the right research or that they even want the animal or they're willing to make the time commitment? If we're talking reptiles,
absolutely
20 plus years, right? Absolutely. What if you gift a sulcata tortoise?
Oh my God, then you're screwed and you've got that thing for like 100 years. Like, what are you going to do?
That's not going to work out well for the tortoise or the person.
No,
that's just bad news across the board.
Oh yeah, that is probably actually one of the true worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
Please never gift a sulcata tortoise.
That would, I'm just running through that scenario in my head and I'm like,
or even like iguanas, like stuff like that. It's like,
right. So it should not be a surprise. No. It's not beneficial to the person. It's not beneficial to the animal whatsoever. So at the very least, the person has to want the animal and know that it's coming.
Done a suitable amount of research.
Yeah.
And then my biggest thing that I have to say is you should never, ever, ever gift a child a pet and fully expect them to take the responsibility for it.
Okay, that was another thing I wrote down when it doesn't go well. This is number 3. Parent is unaware of the care. Number 4, parent won't financially support the pet.
That I get, guys, I get so many comments of this with like kids saying that like their parents won't get them like the proper substrate they need or whatever. And I'm like, I feel terrible, but you shouldn't have gotten the pet to begin with.
And a common scenario I see is they buy the kit. Right? Like the parent goes with them. They're like, yep, we'll get the animal whatever it needs. We're gonna purchase this kit. They think it's everything. Then the kid does their research and goes, WTF, like this is not what
I should have.
This is not what I actually need. So then they go back to their parent and they're like, hey, mom and dad, actually I need a T5 UVB and not a compact. And they're like, no, you don't. You have the kit. You have what you need. I'm not going to spend extra money, especially when the fixture in the bulb is like 40, 50, 80, I don't know how much you would be, whatever. Like it's a good chunk of change though, compared to the cost of the animal.
I get that from the parent's perspective, being like, we just bought you a bunch of stuff. We're not going to go buy you more. So like, I do understand that, but that is where, for me personally, I am a firm believer that like, if the child is under the age of 18, even like 16-year-olds who are super responsible, like if they don't have a car, if they don't have their own finances, if they're not, you know, working to make money for this animal, like I fully believe that no child under the age of 18 should get a pet without the parent also knowing how to properly care for that animal.
Yes. Yes. And I will say like, if you're depending on your kid, like every kid's different, because people are like, oh, how old do they have to be before I can get them a command? I'm like, it varies kid to kid, right? What's their level of involvement? What's their level of responsibility? But I think every kid, and we're talking just kids right now, but should have some responsibility, something that they are
of course
in charge of, even if it's as simple as like filling the water bucket for their misting system, right? Or, hey, you get to sprinkle a supplement on top of the bugs. You don't get to deal with the bugs. You're not feeding the animal, but you get to put the little powder and give it a little shake of the cup. Like very reasonable responsibilities for their age range, so then they can feel involved and have some level of commitment with the animal.
Absolutely. And that's like really beneficial to the kid as well. I mean, I'm all for that 100%.
But then the parent also has to be involved. Even if your kid is 16 years old and has their own job and like paid for everything themselves, like I think you as a parent still have to.
Because then we see the dreaded situation where it doesn't go well again. And basically that kid goes off to college and leaves the pet. And then you see it on Craigslist. That's the sad part.
Because dorms don't let reptiles.
I know that. I took mine to college and he had to live with my parents for 2 years until I had a house off campus. So, you know, it is great if you have parents who are like willing to help you with that. And that's amazing. But for the most part, the parent needs to be somewhat responsible.
Yep, absolutely. So I will say that that's definitely a big piece of it. And then the financial piece of it, huge. Right? And I'm talking like what's popping into my head right now is like, yes, the setup, but also the vet costs.
Oh gosh,
because like if we're playing the most common scenario, you got the wrong supplies, you bought a probably sick, poorly bred animal from like Petco or PetSmart, so you're like double in the hole, right? Like don't have the right stuff, and you've got
not set up for success.
A bad animal. Okay, then your kid's like, hey, I need this correct stuff, and the parent's like, no. The animal's alive,
and then 6 months down the line, and you need a vet visit.
Yeah, and then the kids in my DMs, because they're like, I can't drive, my parents won't take me, they won't pay for it, I don't have a job, I'm 12 years old, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I hate that. It's so heartbreaking.
There's literally nothing I can do or that kid can do in that scenario. It is 100% on the parent to step up and help out. And if you're purchasing, even if you're not purchasing, but if this animal is like in your home, then like, and if you don't want to be financially involved, then you need to tell your kid, like, hey, you need to save it for the enclosure of the animal and vet costs.
In advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the kid is supposed to be 100% responsible, then they need to budget for vet visits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just so heartbreaking because it's preventable, and then I don't know.
Ugh, I just hate it when people are set up for failure when it comes to like a living animal.
Especially
that's the worst case,
because they know. They're watching your videos. They're watching my videos. They're doing all the right research.
There are so many amazing kids who are incredible reptile keepers and do everything for their pets.
Yes.
But unfortunately, when you're a minor and you're limited when it comes to finances or travel or whatever the situation may be, like you need that parental figure to step in and take some responsibility and to help.
Yes.
So that's hard.
Absolutely. All right, what else do we have on my list? Okay, so the wrong setup is purchase. So like how, and I feel like this kind of goes into like maybe a segue into how to do things well.
I
right?
agree,
So like we already talked about like purchasing the kit, you get the wrong stuff, yada, yada, yada. Best case scenario, you do it right from the beginning.
Day
so like
one.
how do you make sure that your kid is involved in that process? How do you as a parent make sure, like how do you make sure that whoever's getting this animal as a gift, the animal set up well and that person knows what they're doing?
I can speak a little bit to this because I was a failure to success situation for myself. So my very first reptile ever, my leopard gecko Charlie, he was a gift to me on Christmas Day when I think I was 16 going on 17.
I feel like we need to take a step back. How did you get your parents to actually gift you?
That's a whole thing.
Charlie, because I love this story. I love this story.
So I had been begging for a leopard gecko since I was 13. My mom wanted no part of it. She was like, absolutely not. And surprisingly, my family actually was very open to pets of all kinds. Like we had a rat, we had a huge fish tank, we had little frogs and turtles
more than
and
just
things.
dogs and cats and stuff.
But for whatever reason, my mom was very against the lizard idea. And so I had taken some class pets from my science class home for spring break and Christmas break and was obsessed with leopard geckos after that. And so I was begging. And when I say begging, this is how I got them.
I love this part.
This is the best part. I literally went online, Googled leopard geckos. I printed off dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures of leopard geckos. And some of them I went into Word and typed please with a smiley face and a question mark and all that. And I cut them all out at 13 years old in my bedroom, just cut them all out. And then I went and I literally strategically put them I wanted my parents to be haunted by leopard geckos. This
story is so great. Can you imagine you're just going to your cupboard to get a bowl of cereal and then bam.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Leopard gecko.
I remember
in the refrigerator. Bam.
I specifically remember I put one in my dad's what is it? The blindfold thing in the car.
Visor.
The visor. Thank you. I don't know why I blanked on the name. The blindfold thing. God, that was dumb. But I literally put one in the visor. So when he pushed it down, it fell. And I put it in the console of his car. And I put it in on his mirror. It was under his pillow. And I was more so leaning heavily on Dad because I knew that if I could convince Dad, then
you just gotta get one.
I just had to get one.
And you know which parent.
I
know which one.
Because even when I finally got him at 16, my mom was like, yeah, this was not my decision. This was all your dad. And I was like, I knew I'd get him.
Yep.
So I hid them everywhere. And it literally took 3 years, but they eventually did get me one for Christmas. And it was a horrible setup situation. My sweet dad did the best that he could, but he used our old fish tank, which if you know anything, and we can, talk about this further in other episodes, but fish tanks are not great for reptiles. They're
for fish.
They're not for fish. Yeah. They don't have the proper ventilation. They're not usually the correct size, all those things. So he lived in that on reptile carpet for I think 3 or 4 years. And that was just not a good situation. And so I got really lucky where as I got older, I figured out the mistakes that I was making. But for a long time, I didn't do it correctly. So, it just...
And he was from PetSmart?
He was definitely from PetSmart. He's a PetSmart baby.
Yeah. So
he's a PetSmart baby.
That's the scenario, right? Where you purchase the wrong stuff and an animal that's probably not as well bred as if you went through a breeder that specialized in leopard geckos.
And they're more likely to be sick or have issues or have different infections or whatever.
Not impossible to be successful. Charlie is a testament to that.
He's literally almost 15 years old. He's killing it.
But that, not all stories have a
I got
have
very,
a happy ending.
very, very lucky. And he got very lucky given my care in the first 6 years of his life was so subpar, so not good. But that was because I wasn't set up for success. And you can be set up for success if you're doing things correctly. And the way I personally would do it now, if I could go back, what I would do is not only... obviously beg my parents the adorable way that I begged, which I'm very proud of.
Go for it. Yes.
Great call. But what I would have also done and that I probably should have done and that I wish my parents maybe would have encouraged me to do, but they didn't know any better. But for any parents out there, this is what I would do now if I had kids. This is what I would encourage them to do. I would basically ask them to put together a presentation of what the care looks like.
I love this.
I love this.
Because it's twofold. One, does the kid learns about proper
100%.
Care, and 2, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
To put together this presentation and to compile all this stuff.
As a parent, if you need a little more time, this gives you a little more time.
But if you're like, hey, I need you to put together 20 slides, 20-minute presentation, top to bottom of how to care for this animal.
Cover the diet, cover the enclosure, cover the heating, cover the lighting.
Literally everything. I want a slide deck head to toe. But if a kid is just interested in the animal because of something they saw on social media or a movie or their friend got one.
It's like a trendy thing that they're into.
Then you're not going to want to put in all that time. Oh, yeah.
It's a total deterrent if they don't want it for the right reasons.
Right.
Which a lot of kids want things for the wrong reasons, which is totally fine, but it helps filter that.
And then you as the parent, and I know we're talking about kids and stuff right now. We'll get into the adults section of this section of this podcast later. But then you as the parent also have to do your research independent, because unfortunately there's so much incorrect care, and that your kid could do a quick Google search, grab the first link, put
all
in
the wrong info.
And it's all the wrong information. So unfortunately, you as the parent can't just get away with learning from the presentation.
You got to fact check your kid's info.
It. Yeah. And ideally you're learning together, because I have parents who DM me and they're like, me and my kid watch your videos all the time.
That makes me want to cry. That's so sweet.
Right?
Oh my gosh. And so that's such a bonding moment.
Yeah.
And it also helps bond you to that animal, I think.
Yes.
Like that's just all around like a really wholesome, I'm like literally going to tear up. That's like the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. No, it's adorable. Yeah. Or like the parent wants the animal and then they want to bring their kid along with them.
I could see myself being that person in that situation for sure. Being like, hey kid, you want this new animal? Let's learn about it together, because mom's going to get it anyway.
Yeah. No. And I think that's fabulous. But if you can learn together,
absolutely,
then that's going to set up the animal for success.
Totally. I think that's the best way to do it. If it were me and if I were to do it all over again, that's absolutely what I would do.
Yes. And then one thing I wrote on here that we briefly touched on is just buying from a good breeder, right? Like you can do all the research, you can do all the right stuff, but like don't forget to purchase from a good breeder, and buying an animal that has good genetics is just going to set you up for success.
Absolutely. That's the number one. I mean, I know a lot of people in rural areas and things like that, may not have those options, but breeders do an amazing job of shipping animals online these days. An amazing job.
Yes, all the time. They're like, I can't find anyone in my area. What do I do? I'm like,
ship them online.
Here's 6 websites that are fabulous.
I've had multiple of my reptiles have been shipped to me online. I've never had a bad experience. I had one experience where I was tracking the truck and the truck drove past me, and it was a whole situation, and I freaked out. I literally was like chasing it down the street. I was like, there's a live animal in there and you're not going to drive away from me. But for the most part, I've always received them healthy, happy, as long as you work with a good breeder. I mean, there's just so many positives.
When you said that, I had this scene from Toy Story where Woody's like running after.
I literally know the exact scene.
Running after the truck.
Yes. That was literally me chasing after Kermit, my tiger salamander. I was like, no.
That's literally, okay. Anyways, moving on. Don't get left off the truck. So I think that is fabulous.
That's huge,
doing that.
Yeah.
And I did have a family friend, his daughter wanted a chameleon, and he's a fish guy. He does aquatics, like saltwater.
Cool. Yeah.
So he's like heavily involved in all that and knows
he gets it from a different perspective.
Yes, but he doesn't know
same but different.
Reptiles, and he obviously knew that like I knew chameleons. Yeah. So I was literally in the mall, and then he's like, hey, can I ask you about chameleons? I dropped whatever I was doing. I was like, let's go.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just like in the middle of the mall, just like chatting with this like family friend talking about chameleons, and he's like, yeah, my daughter like really wants a chameleon. Can you kind of talk me through their care? Now he got a little cheat behind it, because like I obviously know all this stuff and like can just like give him
everything. Yeah,
he doesn't have to go do it himself. Happy to do that. But I just like ran through all these things, and I think something that comes up as well is the handleability of reptiles. When we're talking reptiles specifically, and people going into pets and not knowing exactly what they're expecting. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, and just so you know, like chameleons are not ones that you would handle often, and really any reptile you should go into it thinking that you're going to handle it.
It's hit or miss. I mean,
but like even reptiles that are tolerant of handling, you're not handling them every single day, and you're not handling them for multiple hours, and you're certainly not going to the grocery store with them.
Always, no matter which ones are quote unquote handleable, you're always going to run the risk that you're going to get an individual that just hates it.
Yep.
I mean, that's always a risk.
So I think that's something as well, like going back to the kid thing real quick, like kids in particular want to hold things, want to grab things. And I think there has to be a certain level of like understanding. Yeah. That comes with owning reptiles, and even full adults, right? Like I get DMs and they're so distraught, so heartbroken that they can't, hang out with their chameleon, and they're like, my chameleon hates me, and like I feel awful. What can I do? And I'm like, they don't hate you. They're just scared of you.
And that's their nature. Yeah. That's they're literally everything in their body, all of their instincts tell them to be afraid of you.
Yes.
So
exactly. So, and then I do have one more story time. I guess this one's like a little bit sad, but it was a family friend, her grandma gave her a panther chameleon.
Oh wow.
And like we hadn't talked in years, but like she knew I had like chameleons and stuff, so of course she like ended up in her DMs. I actually think it was her mom who messaged me. It was like SOS, like something's not well, and it was a female chameleon. They didn't even know it was a female. Oh my
gosh.
And she had
even
eggs.
Worse. Yeah.
And I was like, 911, go to Home Depot, get a layman, get sand, the whole shebang. The chameleon ended up passing.
Oh.
The grandma gave this chameleon as a gift to this girl, and she didn't even know what she was doing.
Yeah, that's so hard. It's like so well intended, but
yeah, and she obviously loved the chameleon and poured her heart and soul, but she's like a little bit handicapped going into that because like she didn't even know it was a female, right? No or that laid eggs or anything. So then you're just hard. Like set up for failure. Oh, and this other lady, because I get DM'd all the time.
Yeah, she's the queen of the DMs of situations like this,
chameleons and stuff. So this lady was freaking out because her husband came home with a chameleon and was like, hey babe, got you a chameleon.
See, and that's where we get into the adult situation,
right?
Where it's like, because sometimes couples will try to gift each other pets, and you see it all the time with dogs and things like that. And as long as like one of the people in the couple with a dog, it's usually
margin for
kind
error
of okay.
For dogs is
so much higher, or like whatever it is, smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You can do a lot more with a dog than you can.
Absolutely. But when it comes to reptiles, like obviously if your partner, it wants a specific animal or wants a specific reptile, you're going to know. So in the adult situation, you're not gifting anybody. Hopefully you should never gift somebody an animal if you don't even know if they want it.
But I feel like a better scenario would have been for his wife to have picked out the breeder, picked out the enclosure and been like, hey honey, I'm going to cover the cost of your chameleon.
Let's go get it together.
Yeah. If that's how you want to support them in it, not just like surprise. Yeah. I got you this PetSmart chameleon. And the guy said, you just need this kit and you're good.
Well, or even better yet, like for example, if you like want the like excitement and the surprise on like Christmas Day or on their birthday or whatever, you can literally wrap a beautiful box with like a photo of the animal and say, let's pick out everything that it needs. Let's go get it together. Let's pick out the specific individual that you want.
Yes.
Like you can still have the exciting element of surprise that you want, but just do it the responsible way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like there's so many ways to do this the right way.
Absolutely. So going back to the original question, should you gift a pet reptile? And I think if the person knows what they're getting into, has done their research, has the proper enclosure, is buying from a good breeder, and has the support that they need.
Yes.
And even from your partner, right? Even if you're adult, you still need support. Like, hey, honey, I'm gonna be having live bugs in the house. Like, hope you're okay with it.
Hope you're not going to lose it. Freak out.
Yeah. So I think absolutely you can. There's just a correct way to go about it. And the surprise, the right way and the wrong unprepared, poor setup, sick animal. That's just, even if it's not a gift, that's just not going to end well.
You just, no matter what, you have to make sure that this animal and that whoever you're gifting it to is set up for success. And if they're completely caught off guard or if they know nothing about this animal's care, that is at a detriment to the animal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let us know in the comments, guys, what you thought. Have you ever been gifted a reptile? Have you ever gifted one? Yeah. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to my t-shirt. Look how cute this is.
I do love the t-shirt.
It says, I like chameleons and maybe 3 other people.
I'm one of the 3.
You're not wrong. For anyone who's listening and can't see my t-shirt.
Big fan.
Very adorable.
Big fan.
Yes. We have some very exciting news in the chameleon world. Our friend Bill Strand from Chameleon Academy is officially working with custom reptile habitats to launch a new line of arboreal cages.
With his 40 plus years of experience working with reptiles, we just know these new enclosures are going to be next level. The first cages in the Chameleon Academy line even have special features specifically for bioactive environments.
Both Bill and Custom Reptile Habitats are huge advocates for advancing reptile husbandry, so we are thrilled about these new enclosures. Visit chameleonacademy.com for more information.
The next time you're looking for a reputable breeder to find your next pet, Morph Market should be your first stop. Morph Market is the largest online marketplace to buy and sell reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, and they're even selling aquatics now too.
Sometimes it can be hard to find the right breeder for the right animal, but Morph Market has made that easy. The website allows you to search through countless breeders and small businesses to help ensure your pet is ethically bred and raised.
So next time you're looking for the right pet, check out morphmarket.com and find the right breeder for you. We want to thank Josh's Frogs for supporting the Wild Type podcast. Josh's Frogs is an online animal and reptile supply retailer who you may see at your local expo. We always love stopping by their booth.
They only sell captive bred animals and their sales support animal conservation and research. They offer a large variety of feeder insects for your pet reptiles and amphibians that will arrive right to your doorstep. A 3-day life insurance policy is included, making it so easy to feed your reptile nutritious bugs.
So if you're looking for some crickets, use code TheWildType10 to save 10% on any sized crickets from joshsfrogs.com.
Big thanks to Pangea Reptile for the support of the podcast. They're one of the leading companies for reptile supplies, lizards, and their world-famous gecko food.
They just released their brand new micro-feeding dishes made specifically for baby or micro geckos. These smaller dishes can be mounted to smooth surfaces and even branches and will help stop your gecko from getting food all over their enclosure. If you own a gecko, you know exactly how nice it'll be to not have to clean food paw prints everywhere.
Head on over to PangeaReptile.com to check out these new micro dishes along with their other amazing products like their face packs for shipping, chameleon kits, and gecko food. Should we get into our segment for this episode?
I like this one. Yes, I'm very excited.
Okay, so this segment is called Reptile Mom Hot Take.
We're going to do some hot takes for you guys.
Oh, man. These are the ones where I'm hoping people have some opinions on because we have our opinions.
Yeah.
And these are our hot takes. So do you want to, what is this episode? What is this week's?
Our Reptile Mom Hot Take. Your reptiles do not love you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Bad news. So sorry. Hate to break it to you. I feel so very, very real about this. I feel very strongly about it.
Okay. Let's preface this by saying we love our reptiles, right?
Deeply.
We love them to pieces, but never ever would I say they love me.
Well, okay, let's be real. I say it sometimes in passing in a funny way, but I don't mean that they actually love me the way that I love my friends or my family or my dog.
It's not reciprocated.
No.
Even if there was a teeny bit amount that they did love us, which I'm not saying they do, but even then it is nowhere near proportional to the emotions that we feel towards them.
And I am not a scientist. So if anybody tries to come for me in the comments about this, back up. I don't care. I'm not a scientist, but there's something, I forget what the technical terms are, but there's literally some kind of chemical that equates to love in the way that it does with humans or dogs or things like that reptiles literally biologically do not have.
So my thought process behind this, and this is what, whenever people ask me and during COVID, right? I was living by myself and I just had my reptiles and I was like, I'm so lonely, right? This is really hard. And everyone's like, oh, but you have your chameleons, you're fine. And I was like,
it's literally not the same.
No, I love them, but I'm not getting any sort of companionship or affection from them or anything like that. And so I had to explain it to my friends and family. And the way that I said it is cats and dogs are pack animals. Literally for years, they have survived by being a pack. There's an alpha, there's a hierarchy. They are dependent on each other for survival. Yep. You can't be a little lone wolf and then surviving.
That's a great way of putting it.
They only have survived by being a pack. Now we fast forward to today's day and age with our dogs, we are their pack.
Absolutely.
So they are bonding with us and loving us and forming that relationship with us because we are their pack and they are biologically hardwired to survive.
Love us and survive through
by
that.
Being a pack and we are that for them. Now we look at reptiles, right? And I'm going to use...
Not even close, I'm
going to use chameleons, sea turtles, right? They hatch, have an egg. So what happens is they mate, the females lay the eggs. You know the sea turtle goes onto the beach, lays their eggs?
Yeah.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be seen. Papa turtle, gone. He's nowhere to be seen.
There are the rare special reptiles that do raise their young, but for the most part, most reptiles do not raise their young.
No. And then the little chameleon, the little sea turtle hatches out of their egg and they're on their own.
Yeah. Good luck.
They're just
sink or swim,
food.
Have fun.
Yeah, and stay alive. They're not dependent on their siblings. They don't know who is in their clutch. They don't know where Mama Chameleon is.
No wonder they're scared of everything and everyone. I mean, of course, they don't know who they can trust. They can't trust anyone.
They are solitary, individual animals from day one.
Absolutely.
They're not dependent on their parents. They're not dependent on anyone but themselves. So why would it be in their DNA and their biology to form a pack or to form a bond? It is not to their benefit. It's not to their survival.
Right.
To their benefit is to be fearful, to be defensive, to be hesitant and fearful of things. And so people are like, oh, my chameleon hates me. I'm like, they don't hate you. They're just scared of you.
They just don't trust you. Now, that being said, I do firmly believe that reptiles can bond. I use that term loosely. They can bond with humans. I have experienced this in so many incredible ways, but that bond is built on trust and recognition for me.
Yeah, I do think they can recognize you.
Absolutely. I mean, I've literally been in situations where like literally I'll be holding one of my reptiles and I'll have like friends around or something. And if my friends want to hold them or something like that, like, and my reptile will literally be like trying to get back to me because they recognize me and they know that I'm one they can trust.
And I have seen in like homes that have multiple people, right? Like families and stuff, like, you know, one reptile will like
prefer
the
another
wife,
person,
but not the husband or something 100%. Like that. And I'm like, okay, that seems like there may be something to it where they can recognize. And I do think you can build trust over time through, you know, feeding them tree bugs and spending time by their enclosure. And like, but to me, that's still not love.
But that's where I say I agree 100%. But I think that our human definition of love is not the same as a reptile's definition of love.
So you think that's the equivalent or like the maximum that they can express?
Yeah. So I personally think that forming a bond of trust with a reptile is first off one of like the most beautiful, special things you can ever experience. Like it is literally almost is, I would equate it to like getting a rescue dog who like is fearful of any and all people.
Yes.
And then they finally find humans that they trust.
Yes, that is a great comparison.
And it's so special. And when that animal finally trusts you, I mean, you just feel so chosen and so special. And it's an incredible bond.
Especially because of the time and effort that went into it. It was not like they just showed up that way or like, hi, can't wait to see you.
My yellow anaconda Tarzan, I mean, I held him every day for over an hour for over a year. And like, that was so much time and work and commitment.
You crack me up because you're like, I got so lucky. I'm so lucky.
I know.
Tarzan said that. I was like, do you not remember?
I put a ton of work into him. I know.
You spent with him.
I know.
And you're reaping the benefits of it though.
I just feel lucky. You know, it's just a feeling. But anyway, so my definition is that when I say that your reptiles don't love you, I don't mean that in like a really upsetting way. I just mean it in the sense that they don't love you the way that humans love. Our definition of love is different. It's deeper, it's more emotional, and they don't have the capacity for that. But what they do have the capacity for is trust. So I equate a bond of trust with a reptile to like their version of love.
Yeah. And what's the like anthropomorphize?
Oh, anthropomorphism. Yeah. I might have butchered that.
Yeah. But when you project human emotions onto,
and that happens so often.
An animal, and I see this all the time. And again, sorry guys, but I know Chameleon, so that's what my examples are gonna be. But there was this lady that I was talking to, and she's like, oh my gosh, my Chameleon loves me. He comes out of his enclosure and wants to hang out with me all the time, right on my shoulder. And I was like, oh, cool. And she wanted like an enclosure review. So I was like, send me a picture of your enclosure. And it was the most god-awful setup.
It's like, no wonder he always wants out of the enclosure.
Correct. But our human emotions is when we
that to love
something or enjoy time with them, and then we seek it out. I'm like, but that's not.
It's not it.
That's not the case. In fact, your enclosure was so poorly set up that the guy was like, get me out of here. Right?
Yeah.
So that's something.
And coming from somebody who had a chameleon who was incredibly like not necessarily affectionate, that's the wrong word, but did really enjoy like coming out of the enclosure. And I had a great setup. I had all of those things. So I know that he had learned, I believe, that like when he would come out, he would get to go sit in the tree in the sun, and he equated me with good things. And that is a bond of trust.
Yes, absolutely. And they are creatures of habit, right? So like if you're giving them a hornworm every time you come by them, I mean, this is conditioning 101, right? You're training them.
You're literally training them.
Positive association. If I am good things, which is why Neptune cracks me up. He's a little feisty firecracker who's terrified of me. And I'm like, dude, I'm the person that feeds you.
Ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
I've had him for 5 years.
Anytime I go into your reptile room, Neptune literally it's the most dramatic.
Like guard dogs. I have a guard chameleon.
Literally.
He's like, intruder alert.
It's like,
and you're like freaks out.
When I pet sit for her, it's wild because literally I'll go in there and I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to feed you. I'm literally trying to give you sustenance.
But I'm saying even me, who he sees literally every day, like he has still not form the connection that like I'm the lady that feeds you and
that's like the whole point of why we want to have some of these hot takes, I feel like, because those are those things where it's like you just need to understand that sometimes an animal is never going to form that bond of trust.
Right.
Like you've had Neptune how long? 5 years?
Yeah.
And he still hasn't figured it out.
No. And that's fine.
That's
we
okay.
just have this. And like I said, I love him to pieces.
Absolutely.
Have poured my heart and soul into him and have gone crumbs in return. Okay. But I'm okay with that, right? I've made my peace with it. And like I said earlier, going into reptiles, you should never go into it thinking that you can handle them all the time.
Right.
Or that, and like,
I've actually gotten to the point where like some of my animals that I can't handle are some of my favorite to observe. Right. Like I love that experience.
And there's just like this mutual respect of like, hey, I've built you a fabulous home where you will thrive. And I get so much joy and fulfillment just seeing you do your thing.
That just fills my cup. Like I feel so good giving them an incredible environment for them to thrive in. Like that is just so special. And then watching them live their life in that is the coolest thing.
And that's what people don't get. Because when I say no, reptiles don't love me, well, why would you want to have one then?
That drives me nuts when people will say that, because I'll say that to people who aren't reptile people. Yeah. Then they're like, well, why do you even have one? That's stupid.
And it's for what you just described. And this is why we have this podcast, guys, so that we can create the space to talk about these things. And so you can be listening and feel seen and be like, they get it. Because your friends probably don't get it. Your family might not get it.
We've all experienced those situations where someone will say something like that. They're like, well, then why do you even have them? That's stupid. But
like to truly see your animal thriving
is like literally the most heartwarming feeling in the whole world.
I'll just sit in my reptile room and just like
watch them exist
and just be a happy little clam. Right. And it's just like it's the most rewarding thing. So even though they may not love me, I love them, and that to me is enough and is worth it.
100%. I mean, it's just there's so many other things that you can get out of these animals and enjoy with having these animals besides just affection.
Absolutely. So let us know your thoughts on this reptile mom.
Tell me if you hate me after saying that.
Hot take.
Let me know.
We will have future hot takes in future episodes.
Oh yeah, this segment is not a one-time deal. It will be back.
Yes. Very, very much looking forward to that. Is there anything else you're wanting to add? I feel like we pretty much
covered everything. No, I feel great.
Cool. Well, then I think, guys, that wraps up this episode. Very excited. We've got lots more in store. In the next episode, we're gonna be talking about checking notes, struggles with being a girl in the reptile hobby.
Very excited for this one.
Yes, so this one's for the ladies. I mean, for gentlemen, you're also welcome to
always welcoming the dudes as well. But we're here for the girlies.
Yes, but I think it would be helpful for guys to hear that perspective as well.
100%.
So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next episode. And we're going to have our very first ranking segment, which we get to rank different things.
So pumped.
Be on the lookout for that. As always, you can follow us on social media at the Wild Type Podcast.
Please.
Be sure to subscribe. Yes. Stay tuned for those reviews and giveaways and everything else.
And please leave us a review on whatever you're listening on. Yes. We welcome it. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys.
Yes. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. As always, we will talk to you later, reptile girlies.
See ya.
Bye.